2 autopsies are now complete, and neither one can say how this 18-year-old died. The July 4th trip, what police say witnesses told them, what each autopsy found, and the sinking boat call that surfaced afterwards. No charges, no cause of death, and a grand jury now holding a report the public has never seen. So the only honest thing anyone can do is separate what is documented from what is being guessed. Nolan Xavier Wells was an 18-year-old from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. A graduate of Ocean Springs High School, he was a multi-sport athlete and a wide receiver preparing for his sophomore football season at Southwest Mississippi Community College. On Saturday, July 4th, 2026, Wells traveled by motorboat with a group of high school friends to Horn Island. The vessel launched from a private dock in the Biloxi Ocean Springs area, reaching the island after a transit across the Mississippi Sound. Horn Island is a 10-mile-long barrier island off the Gulf Coast, administered as an uninhabited wilderness area with no permanent facilities, shelters, or cellular coverage. When the boat returned to the mainland that evening, Wells was not on board. His mothers filed a missing person report early the next morning, prompting a coordinated search by the Sheriff's Office, the Coast Guard, and the National Park Service. On July 6th, 2 days after the trip began, a ranger discovered Wells's body face down in the shallow water off the island's northwestern shoreline. Wells was black, and the friends on the trip were white. This documented fact became central to why the case drew national attention. But in the initial days of the investigation, authorities faced the challenge of reconstructing events on an isolated strip of sand where communication lines did not exist. On July 8th, 2026, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office released its first primary public statement regarding the timeline. The agency's written release stated, quote, "The friends left Horn Island and went back without Nolan." A later law enforcement communication added that witnesses told investigators Wells was not on board when the vessel departed the island that afternoon. This reported absence stands as the central factual gap in the case, but investigators emphasize that it is merely a reported witness account, not an explanation of events. In a criminal inquiry, a statement relayed by law enforcement must be clearly distinguished from a formal court finding. This public disclosure does not establish a cause of death, suggest any civil or criminal wrongdoing, name a suspect, or advance a definitive theory of what transpired on the beach. To date, no criminal charges have been filed against any individual in connection with this case. The Sheriff's Office continues to issue active calls for public assistance, asking anyone who is on or near Horn Island on July 4th to contact investigators. These ongoing requests for information show that local authorities are still treating the matter as an open investigation rather than a closed file, leaving the exact circumstances of Nolan's separation unresolved. In mid-July 2026, the legal team representing the Wells family commissioned an independent forensic examination. Dr. Roger Mitchell, a pathologist based in Washington, D.C., performed this second examination, which public reporting made available later in July as a separate record. In his report, Dr. Mitchell stated, "Cause and manner of death are undetermined pending further investigation." In forensic medicine, the cause of death is the specific medical reason for death, while the manner of death is the classification of how that death occurred. The designation of undetermined means the available physical evidence does not support a definitive classification. Because of this lack of evidence, the report does not allow for any medical or legal inference of drowning, assault, accident, natural death, suicide, or homicide. Regarding physical trauma, the pathologist recorded no apparent lacerations, fractures, or deep tissue injuries. The report did, however, document one specific, localized physical finding: a 12 by 8 centimeter area of red discoloration in the soft tissue at the back of the head, with no established cause for the discoloration. These clinical observations remain separate from the public commentary of the family's legal team. Ben Crump, the family's attorney and spokesperson, stated that the independent examination faced severe procedural limitations. Crump explained that missing body parts, specifically structures of the throat retained by the state examiner, and incomplete initial procedures left significant gaps. Because of these missing elements, Crump emphasized that the remains did not permit a complete forensic review. This private document shows why a limited public record does not settle the case, even as the official state-led investigation proceeded on its own legal track. On July 31, 2026, the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office completed the official autopsy. Those findings, along with the toxicology results, have not been released to the public. District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath explained that the official report is withheld during its referral to a grand jury. Under Mississippi procedural rules, records for non-natural deaths remain confidential during this review process to preserve the integrity of the inquiry. A grand jury's function is to evaluate evidence presented by prosecutors and determine if there is probable cause to issue an indictment. This standard of probable cause is a legal threshold to move a case forward. It is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Furthermore, an indictment is not a conviction, and the grand jury itself does not conduct a trial or determine guilt. To date, no one has been charged in connection with Wells's death. This process does not make the unreleased state findings public, nor does it imply whether the official report agrees or disagrees with the independent autopsy. It provides no account of what happened on the island. Instead, the legal details remain sealed as the investigation shifts toward a separate, highly scrutinized audio record. On the afternoon of July 4th, a distress call was placed to Seatow, a private marine towing company, from a vessel near the western tip of Horn Island. The recording, obtained from the dispatch system of the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, captures the caller's direct words. "Our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come?" The caller reported that there were roughly 7 people on board. This original distress call must be distinguished from a subsequent entry in the dispatch log. A later Seatow dispatcher relay noted that a relative of the boat owner called back to state that the problem was resolved and that assistance was unnecessary. As a result, no tow vessel was dispatched to the scene. The family's attorney hired independent audio engineers to examine the recording. This engineering review confirmed that the released clip matches the original audio, but it does not represent an official law enforcement determination. Currently, no official finding connects this marine distress call to the death of Nolan Wells. The accumulated files, the chronological timeline, the statements given to sheriff's deputies, the autopsy reports, and the maritime audio recordings establish a documented record of the event. Yet all this formal evidence only defines the clear boundaries of what is still unknown, leaving the case file open and the public record incomplete. When the noise of speculation is stripped away, the compiled facts leave behind 3 unanswered questions. Why did Nolan Wells become separated from the group? What happened on the island after the boat left? And how did an 18-year-old end up in the water where he was found 2 days later? The answers to these questions remain locked in the silence of the Gulf Coast beach. Subscribe to follow more unresolved American cases. Today, Horn Island's silence highlights the gap between rumor and record. For a grieving family, the search for truth continues behind closed doors. Until facts replace secrecy, this young life remains an unfinished story. The truth deserves to be told.